Welcome to Uplift Conversation, the weekly podcast segment of Daily Uplift with Vixa, where we talk honestly about faith, relationships, and the real issues of life. Take a breath, settle in, and let's walk through today's conversation together. Picture this moment with me. You're sitting in your car at a red light, and someone behind you lays on their horn the second the light turns green. Or maybe you're scrolling through social media and you see that post, the one that makes your blood pressure spike. Or perhaps you're replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, and that same rush of heat floods your chest all over again. That feeling, that tightness in your jaw, that fire in your belly, that voice in your head that wants to scream or cry or throw something, that's anger. And if you're anything like me, you've probably spent a good portion of your life trying to figure out what to do with it. You see, I grew up believing that good Christians don't get angry. That somehow, the moment you accept Christ, you're supposed to become this perpetually peaceful person who never raises their voice, never feels frustration, never clenches their fists under the table during a difficult conversation. I thought anger was something to be ashamed of, something to confess and quickly sweep under the rug. But here's what I've learned, and here's what I want to share with you today. Anger isn't your enemy. In fact, when understood correctly, anger can become one of your greatest teachers. Stay with me on this. The Bible actually has a fascinating relationship with anger. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, the Apostle Paul writes something that honestly shocked me the first time I really paid attention to it. He says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger." Wait, did you catch that? He didn't say, "Never be angry." He didn't say, "Stuff it down and pretend it doesn't exist." He said, "Be angry." There's permission in those two words. There's acknowledgement, there's humanity. But then comes the wisdom, and do not sin, and don't let the sun go down on your anger. Paul is teaching us something profound here. He's teaching us not how to eliminate anger, but how to dwell with it, how to sit with it, how to process it in a way that doesn't destroy us or the people around us. Think about anger like this. Imagine it as a smoke alarm in your house. When that alarm goes off, you have two choices. You can rip the alarm off the wall, throw it in the trash, and go back to sleep. Or you can investigate what triggered it. Is there actually a fire? Is something burning that needs your attention? Most of us, we've been taught to rip out the alarm. We silence our anger before we ever ask what it's trying to tell us. And that's where we miss the gift hidden inside the struggle. Because anger, at its core, is almost always pointing to something deeper. It's a messenger. It shows up to tell you that a boundary has been violated, that an injustice has occurred, that something precious to you is under threat, or that an old wound just got poked again. When we learn to dwell with our anger instead of being controlled by it, we open the door to profound transformation. So let me walk you through what this actually looks like, practically speaking. Not theory, but real, applicable steps you can take the next time anger shows up at your door. Step 1. Give yourself permission to feel it. This is harder than it sounds, especially if you've spent years believing that your anger makes you a bad person or a weak Christian. But listen to me carefully. Jesus got angry. He overturned tables in the temple. He called out hypocrisy. He wept with frustration over Jerusalem. Jesus, fully God and fully human, experienced the full range of human emotion, including anger. You are not less spiritual because you feel angry. You're actually more human. And being human is not a flaw in God's design. It's the point. So when anger rises up, don't immediately shove it back down. Don't spiritualize it away with a quick prayer and a forced smile. Instead, acknowledge it. Say it out loud to yourself or to God. I am angry. I feel this. This is real. The Psalms give us such a beautiful model for this. David didn't sanitize his prayers. He poured out raw emotion. He questioned God. He expressed rage at his enemies. He was honest about his pain, and God didn't reject those prayers. He preserved them for us to read thousands of years later. Your honesty with God doesn't offend him. Your real emotions don't make him love you less. In fact, your willingness to bring your whole self, anger and all, into his presence, that's intimacy. That's trust. Step 2. Get curious about the root. This is where the real work begins. This is where anger transforms from a destructive force into a revelatory guide. James chapter 1, verse 19 tells us, "Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger." That word slow is so important. It's an invitation to pause, to investigate, to ask questions before reacting. When you feel anger rising, try this. Instead of immediately focusing on what made you angry, ask yourself why this particular thing affects you so deeply. What's the story underneath the story? Maybe you're furious at your spouse for forgetting something important. On the surface, it's about the forgotten task. But underneath? Maybe it's about not feeling valued. Maybe it's about a pattern where you feel unseen or unheard. Maybe it's triggering something from your childhood about not being a priority. Or perhaps you're angry at yourself for making a mistake at work. On the surface, it's about the error. But underneath? Maybe it's about perfectionism. Maybe it's about fear of rejection. Maybe it's about trying to earn love through performance. When you get curious instead of reactive, when you become a detective of your own heart, you discover that anger is rarely about the thing you think it's about. And that discovery? That's where healing begins. Step 3. Transform it into purposeful action. Here's the truth about anger. It's energy. It's fuel. It's power. And like any form of power, it can be used to create or to destroy. The choice is yours. Some of the most beautiful things in this world were born from righteous anger. Movements for justice, advocacy for the vulnerable, important conversations that needed to happen, changed policies, healed relationships, personal breakthroughs. Proverbs 29:11 says, "A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise person quietly holds it back." Now, this isn't about suppression, it's about intentionality. It's about the difference between exploding reactively and responding wisely. When you've acknowledged your anger and understood its root, you can then ask, what does this anger want to build? Where does it want to take me? What action honors both my feelings and my values? Maybe it means having a courageous conversation where you set a boundary you've needed to set for years. Maybe it means channeling that energy into a cause that fights for justice. Maybe it means finally getting professional help to process trauma you've been carrying. Maybe it means forgiving someone, not because they've earned it, but because you're ready to be free. Anger, when channeled wisely, becomes fuel for your growth. It becomes the catalyst for necessary change. It becomes the force that moves you from where you are to where you need to be. Here's what I need you to hear today. What I really need you to take with you. You are not broken because you feel angry. You are not a failed Christian because you struggle with difficult emotions. You are beautifully, courageously, wonderfully human. God didn't make a mistake when He gave you the capacity for anger. He gave you a powerful tool, and like any tool, its value isn't in its existence, It's in how you use it. Learning to dwell with your anger, to sit with it, to listen to it, to direct it wisely. This isn't just emotional intelligence. This is spiritual maturity. This is what it looks like to be fully alive, fully feeling, and fully faithful all at the same time. So the next time anger knocks on the door of your heart, welcome it in as a guest, not as a master. Listen to what it has to say. Learn from its message. Then make a wise choice about what to do with the energy it brings. Because when you do this, when you stop fighting your humanity and start working with it, you'll discover something incredible. Freedom. The freedom to feel deeply without being consumed. The freedom to be honest without being destructive. The freedom to be both tender and strong, both gentle and fierce, both peaceful and passionate. That's the journey. That's the invitation. That's what it means to dwell with your anger instead of being enslaved by it. And friend, I believe you can do this. I believe you're already doing it, just by being here, just by listening, just by being willing to grow. Keep going. You're on the right path. Thanks for joining today's Uplift conversation. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who may need it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Daily Uplift with Vixa Luna for more faith, life wisdom, and real talk that strengthens your spirit. Stay inspired, stay uplifted. I'll see you next Saturday on another podcast episode of Uplift Conversation. Be uplifted